All right, we are live, day 475 of going live today. If you guys have not seen new podcast alert, check out the latest podcast I did with Daisy Sebastian. She is such a go-getter, great experience, went right into affordable housing, helping property management, leasing out. I mean, talk about someone that's on top of it. She's someone that you want to listen to and understand. And she even went through exactly the top markets in Birmingham, Alabama market, which if you've been following what we've been doing, that's exactly the market that we've been following, right? We've been adding and creating a list of comparable sales properties for the last 12 months, right? We've been adding by zip code, right? Noting all the common data points, bed, bath, square footage, year built, what the properties were sold for, what the price per square foot was, what the lot size were, what subdivisions and neighborhoods they were, and just noting down comments about the properties. And this is how you can figure out what is the most applicable comparable sales property that you want to use when you're pursuing the BRRRR strategy, right? And we've been tracking the last 12 months, properties that have been coming on the last 3 months, and properties that have been just coming onto the market that are being listed. And here's why we're tracking properties that are just coming onto the market, okay? Now, just so you guys can follow where we are, we're putting on properties that are less than 200 grand. We're looking at single family homes, 3, 4 bedroom plus, that have been on the market for less than 3 days. And here's why. We have been tracking the 10-year treasury yield, okay? And if you understand how mortgage interest rates work, right? It's driven by a few factors, obviously, speculation, but it's also driven by the 10-year treasury yield interest rate. So right now it's at 4.6, which is near its 12-month high. But it's also affected by the spread between the 10-year treasury yield to the 30-year mortgage interest rates. That allows you to figure out, hey, we were just bottoming out maybe just a couple months ago, 3 months ago at 3.6. Now that interest rate has gone up to 4.6 just because there's speculation that the Federal Reserve isn't going to cut rates as fast or as quickly as originally thought. But the spread has narrowed. So that's why you don't see interest rates in the eights right now for the 30-year mortgage interest rate, because that spread has narrowed. Right? Historically, that spread between the 10-year yield and the 30-year mortgage interest rate is between 1.5% to 2%. That went as high as 3%, which is why you saw interest rates in the eights. But now that the spread has narrowed, you're not seeing as big of an increase in the mortgage interest rates, but nonetheless, it's still higher than it was 3 months ago. So if you're pursuing a BRRRR strategy, right? And a BRRRR strategy stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. It's heavily dependent on you getting your ARV correctly, right? Your after repair value. So for us, whenever we're looking at properties in the market, let's use an example, right? What is the BRRRR strategy? If you buy a home for $20,000 and you are able to renovate that home for 50 grand, 50, now you're all in on that home for $70,000. That allows you to buy, that might allow you to make the home worth 100 grand. So you are all in at 70 grand. So it's 20 acquisition price, 50 grand for the renovation. So 70 all in. And now you're able to create $30,000 equity because of the extensive renovation you put into the property. That brings you to 100 grand. Now you can go get a debt service coverage ratio loan for 70% of the home's value. So now you can get $70,000 back in the form of loan proceeds. And you get to rinse and repeat and buy another property, maybe 30 grand next time for acquisitions and 40 grand renovations, but you get to rinse and repeat. And that's what makes the BRRRR strategy so scalable, because you get to use the same pile of cash over and over again. Because what's the alternative? The alternative is you saving up money from your full-time job for a 25% down payment, hope that property appreciates or cash flows, and you save up money all over again for the next property. That's why that strategy is a little bit slower, because you got to save it over and over and over again. It takes a lot of people a lot of time to save up that much money. So that's why the strategy is so much more scalable. Now, I'm not saying that the other strategy of saving up for a down payment is not effective. Tons of people have built a ton of wealth that way. I'm just saying the BRRRR strategy, in order for you to be accurate, you have to get your ARV correctly. So when you see interest rates for the 10-year seesaw that much in a year, and you're depending on the sold values of the properties to justify your comp for your after repair value so that you can pull back out as much as capital as possible, you got to track what's coming on the market right now. Because what's sold today is going to affect your BRRRR, because after you're finishing renovating and you rent it out, that might be 3 to 6 months from now. That might bring your ARV down. And that might mean you might leave in some capital versus that perfect BRRRR that you were thinking about where you get back out all your capital. So let's look at this deal, right? Let's look at how I analyze this deal. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add this property to my list in 35215. And the reason I'm adding this to my list is because, well, I want to just keep track of what's happening in the market. So in 35215 in this area, let me just write down the details right here. This is a let me take down URL, 4-bed, 2.5 bath. 4-bed, 2.5 bath. This is 1,500 square feet, which is right in the range of what the type of properties I'm looking for. Typically, I'm looking for 3 bedrooms between 1,200 to 1,500 square feet, because I know then I have the space or the square footage to add another bedroom. And that increases my chance of increasing my monthly rental rate, because Section 8 or housing choice vouchers typically are paid based on bedroom count. Now, will an extra toilet help you rent out the property a lot faster? Yeah, absolutely. But it still requires you to get your ARV correctly. Okay, so now on this property was built in 1956. 1956. This is being listed for $129,900. So on a dollar per square foot perspective, this is $87 per square foot. This property was listed 18 hours ago, so that's literally listed 116.25. And the lot size on this home is 9583. 9583 square foot. Oh, interesting. That's the same lot size as that one. No garage, no basement, no HOA. Let's see what neighborhood this is in. I'm going to zoom out and just take the closest neighborhood, which is northeast of Woodcrest. Northeast of Woodcrest. Great. Now, let me know some comments about the conditions of the home. Now, this property, I mean, this is that carpet needs to get replaced. That bathroom's okay. Kitchen's okay. I'll say it's above average, not super modern. Above average kitchen and bathrooms, not super modern. Okay. Above average kitchen and bathrooms, not super modern. Carpet needs to be replaced in only one room and doesn't look like it needs painting. Okay, so now I know the condition of this home. So if I'm ever able to find a property, right? Because what's a perfect comp? A perfect comp is if you are able to buy a property right next door to it with the same bed bath count, same square footage, same lot size, same year build, same finishes, same everything. That's your perfect comp, right? Because it's right next door. But usually that's not the case. For the most part, once you go across man-made borders like these big main streets or interstate highways or natural borders such as creeks, highways, railroads, you're in completely different neighborhoods. That allows you to think about, well, if I don't get the value that I'm looking for from the lender's appraiser, what properties am I going to put forth to challenge that appraisal? What am I going to do? That's why we add one property every single day. It's little steps every single day that compounds. We get better and better knowledge every single day. And if we ever run into an issue, we already did all the work. So it's not going to be a big undertaking for us to challenge an appraisal if we're that confident in the ARV, the after repair value. So let's underwrite this deal now, because now I got this data point in here and I can always refer back to it, especially if I see another property near Woodcrest. Okay. Now let me change my share, because for some reason OneStream today is not allowing me to share the whole screen. Don't know why, maybe it's an update, but let's go ahead and plug in the details here, right? So 129,900 was a deal. And I'm going to go to my renovations and I'll subtract out the plus 10,000 because that was the scenario that I was doing yesterday. I'm going to go to my rehab calculator and I will always set aside $1,500 for the roof just to kind of repair it. I got $500 for landscaping to keep it nice and tidy. For my painting, I'll probably put $300 of 300 square feet of painting at $3 a square foot just to have something in there in case there's some touch-up paint that needs to get done. I saw that there's one room with carpet, so I'll just assume it's 300 square feet, 10 by 30, just making it up, right? Just having some budget there. Then I'm going to replace 3 other toilets with high pressure flush toilets so that I can avoid any clogged toilet calls. And then I am seeing that my rehab's roughly around $8,000 for this property. All right, not too bad. Okay, not too bad. Then for my monthly income rent, I am going to go to affordablehousing.com. I'm going to go to the owners section for the market rent estimator, and I'm going to plug in the bedroom count on a market rent estimator. And this is the same process that we've been following the last couple of days. Just go to affordablehousing.com, go to the owner section, go to market rent estimator, and you'll see that on average, the average rent for 4-bedroom in this area within a 2.19 mile radius for 25 units is $1,387. That's why I'm putting $1,387 right here. Okay, then I'm going to get my property tax number right from the payment calculator on Redfin. And it says it's $165 for property taxes and $101 for the primary insurance. And you can look at this right up on Redfin, right? But I'm going to take that 101 estimate that it has there, and I'm going to multiply it by 1.2 because I'm assuming it's using a primary residence insurance estimate. And when you're using a property as an investment property, the insurance company is going to view your asset as a riskier asset. So they're going to add a 20% premium on there. Or that's what I'm doing to be conservative because they're always going to view it as a riskier asset. So they're going to charge more. So don't take that exact estimate. And obviously, you should check with your county assessor record before you close on a deal to get your actual property taxes. And you should check on your insurance quote before you close on a property so that you're accurate, right? So going forward, what I'll have to do is I'm going to do a 10% for my maintenance, and then I'm going to have 10% for property management and 5% for my vacancy. Now, right here, I'm setting aside 10% of my rents every single month for maintenance. Something's going to happen with your property. Just 2 days ago, my HVAC got stolen at our property. That's going to cost you about $7,500 to get it replaced. These things happen. I've got a roof replacement bill at our property in Arizona for $15,000. If you don't set aside this money every single month, I mean, you would be lying to yourself about the expenses that you're going to incur because you underestimate your expenses, and you are lying to yourself because you overestimate your profitability. Don't be that person. Don't ever listen to someone that says there's no maintenance, there's no issues, even if it's turnkey, because something's going to happen. All right. So last thing I'll do is I'll put 25% down for this property. So if I do B4 my asking price times my 25% down payment, that'll be $32.5K cash down to the seller. Now, for my interest rate, I'm going to do 7.5% for my interest rate for my loan right now, assuming that's just where it is. It could be a little bit higher, but I'm going to use 7.5% right now. So if I have $3,200 for closing costs and $8,000 for my renovations roughly, and I rent this out as a 4-bedroom for $1,387, I would cash flow $73 a month. And that's a 2% cash and cash return, assuming I bought this property for $129,900 with a rehab of roughly $8,000 with a 25% down and 7.5% interest rate. Now, let's say your target return was 10%. Again, I'm not saying 10% is a magical number. I'm simply showing y'all how to adjust up and down the levers to figure out what criteria works for you. And if I lower my asking price to, let's say, $100,000, you can see that the cash on cash goes with 7. So if I'm trying to reach a 10% return, I have to go down to $91,000 in order to reach my 10%. Again, this is not investment advice. We're not soliciting any investments on this call. Just showing you all how to come up with a price and a set of terms that will make it a deal for you. Because some people might not even care about cash flow. Some people say, if I'm buying a home in Southern California and it's going up by 5% every single year on $1 million property, that's $50,000 of appreciation. Big wealth driver, right? Who cares if you make $200 a month, right? That's why you got to talk to your own investment professionals and understand your goal for what you're pursuing. Some people might cash flow, some people might own appreciation, some people might want both. But you have to decide what strategy is right for you and what's comfortable for you based on your risk appetite. I'm just showing you, hey, for every property, there is a price and set of terms that will make it a deal. You just got to determine what that deal looks like for you and what your strategy is. All right. So let's do a couple more scenarios. Let's say you're tracking a 10-year like we talked about earlier, and it goes down and it goes down 6%. Well, look what happened to the cash and cash return number. It jumped like 2.5 points just because you went down by 1.5 points on the interest rate. So now you might be willing to pay $101,000 on this property. That's a full 10 grand higher than what it was previously, simply because your interest rates dropped. So that's why you have to pay attention to what's happening in the market and not just have your head in the sand. You got to stay on top of the pulse of what's happening in the market, which is why we're tracking interest rates, which is why we're tracking what a property's coming onto the market for on a dollar per square foot perspective. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and look for, what if my rehab doubles, right? I send someone out there and yeah, it looks great on paper, but I look at a panel or I look at a roof and boom, it needs to get replaced. So now my rehab doubled. Look what happened to my cash and cash return number. So this is why I'm teaching you this, because I don't want you to panic when that happens, right? You have your inspection contingency. So even though the rehab doubled, just lower the asking price. See what you got to get back to achieve your return. So now maybe you're back to 92 grand. Okay. And now you're able to get back to 9.9%. So you get back to 9.9%, but you had to lower the asking the purchase price by 9 grand because your rehab doubled to $16,000. Assuming everything else stays constant, you're still able to get $1,387 for your property. And now you're cash flowing $340 a month, even though you doubled your rehab to 16 grand, but your interest rate is still 6%. All right. Hopefully this was helpful, everybody. My goal with this is for you to copy my homework, right? I didn't make this spreadsheet from scratch. I got it from a few other folks, and I modified, I tweaked it so that I can analyze these deals as fast as possible. And this is why we plugged in all these details. I'm sorry if something happened with the screen. I think I just noticed that it just was glitching. I don't know what's happening on the stream today, so I apologize for it. But I want to make sure you guys are able to see the screen, all the numbers, 92 grand. This is what I did when I updated to 16 grand. This is the rent that we got from affordablehousing.com. We got these numbers from the Redfin payment calculator. We got these numbers for expenses, typically what we do. And then this was the cash and cash return number that was fluctuating as we updated the rehab number when it doubled, as we updated interest rate here in K7 when we lowered it. So my goal is this. I hope you copy my homework, right? Look at the same property I looked at today using the same spreadsheet. You guys want to copy the spreadsheet, just go to affordablehousing.com. I'm affordablehousing.io, not .com. Go to the Get Deal Analysis tool, get a copy of your spreadsheet, and that's the fastest way for you to get a copy of the spreadsheet, right? I didn't make it from scratch. I got it from a few other folks. I combined them, I tweaked them so that I can analyze these deals as fast as possible. That's it. No specials, no tricks. And I hope you guys all copy my homework, right? Because at some point, someone's going to ask you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? You can go to your own YouTube page at that time and say, hey, I know this is a deal because I've been looking at properties for the past 475 days, every single day. Might that give you some confidence that you know what you're doing? I certainly hope so. All right. Have an amazing Friday, everybody. If you don't see me on a weekend, enjoy the weekend. Spend some quality time with your family and friends today. And most of all, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Again, we got a new podcast up, especially with Daisy. She's a great property manager. She's in Birmingham. She knows how to get properties leased out, and she cares. That's so important. She cares. Please listen to the podcast. Please share the podcast with your friends and family that are folks that want to just do good with their time, their energy, and their resources. And most of all, thank you so much for caring about affordable housing. Without people like you guys, I would have never had the home I grew up in. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for keeping up with me and attending the lives and leaving these kind comments. It means the world to me. I understand that when you get started, it's a very lonely process in the beginning. Know that you're not alone. And my honest goal is, if you guys start your own YouTube channel, just message me, tag me. I'll share your YouTube channel. I've been doing this for 2 years, and I know how slow, I know how hard it is to start your own YouTube channel. I know you can do it though, because you wouldn't be listening to this channel. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if your heart wasn't in the right place. And I just want to meet more great people in this world. I tell my friends and family all the time, you can't bring money to the grave. You can only leave behind the impact that you had on other people. And I'm not sure if you all have ever thought about the day you died, but I did. And I really thought about the only way that I'm going to feel at peace is if I helped enough people that you, or the tenants and the families that you help through affordable housing, are going to pay it forward and look out for our children and our grandchildren and future generations. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much, sincerely. Reach out to me. I want to talk to you. The following is not that big. I mean, we only got 3,000 followers, subscribers. I'm small enough that I can still message every single one of you. So please take advantage of this time right now. Thank you so much for supporting our affordable housing mission. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 476. Have a good one, everybody.